This is Jeremy Swinger with the Rice Trader, just giving your weekly summary of the TRT report. For all of you that attended the 10th annual World Rice Conference, I wanted to thank you, and it was great to see you all in Vietnam. Hanoi was an awesome place. It was great to see friends and enjoy the talks from speakers and see our clientele. It was a great experience, probably a record attendance, so just a great time. I want to thank all of you for attending. With that, let's talk about the Rice Trader in this market. The conference definitely revealed some interesting information. As many of you know, we had the Iraq grain board, who's now been promoted to the ministry actually, and we had the head of NFA and other key global officials. So there sure were an amazing amount of key talks and market points to be learned. Inside, of course, the conference room, and for surely also in the hallways where many deals were done. So it was an interesting time, and I'm going to summarize some of those key points that I saw at the conference, and we're highlighting the TRT this week. If I talk about probably the most significant factor, it would probably be the Philippines. As we all know, the tender was very significant. I'm not going to go through the exact details, but they are obviously shown in our just first section, going through what the likely awards are, who actually by company gave them, and by country. You know, the Philippines will continue to be active. They still have another 703,000 tons to book in, and we did find out that they have another 1 million tons next year already slotted in. So the Philippines is going to continue to be a buyer. But if you look at long-term trends, the official trade should be about 1.5 to 2.2 million tons. They're actually being on the lower side of their average imports on the official side. Gray trade, of course, is much harder to track, but definitely large amounts of gray trade as well. What I also find interesting is we need to watch out in the next year, because you're going to see a lot of grower revolts, if you will. You're going to see prices of the grower drop dramatically as this influx of rice occurs. So just be very, very keen on this for those who are trading in that region. You could see some political instability. You may want to make sure that as rice comes in, you definitely have protection in case there would be some sudden political changes and such. So definitely the Philippines will be interesting, and they are probably the key buyer right now. Then, of course, I have to move to Iraq. Iraq has been continue to be interesting. They bought from the U.S. It was a very political trade in the last tender, 90,000 tons off the books, and some other rice as well. And I'll talk about in prices here in just a second. We always have to remember that the rice market is highly political, and the Iraq trade is no different than this. In addition to Iraq, let's talk about China. And this will be one of the key factors that I got out of the conference. And just more of a reminder, as I've kept saying, supplies are very high, and where the supplies are extremely high as far as the global trade, which we have the highest stocks since 2000, are for China. In fact, a wonderful graph was put up by one of the speakers that showed, of course, the 94 million, and compared it against the Thai overstocking situation after government intervention a few years ago, where they had 18 million tons that they looked to sell. 18 million took them 6 years to sell with some derogation and some major problems, and that was only 18 million that they slowly had to bleed into the market. China's 94 million metric tons of stocks, while some of it is strategic, a good third of that does probably need to be sold on the market at some point. And so we're seeing in the market where China is definitely destabilizing, they're definitely selling, they're definitely trying to get rice on the market, both in the Indica and the Japonica side. And that's why you're seeing these amazing deals and extremely cheap rice, some of decent quality, some not such great quality going into markets, but much cheaper than the overall market. On that note, I guess I will talk about prices first and then kind of meander back to the overall situation. If you look at prices right now on that and with the Philippines tender, you really have what I would call three sectors. Four actually. I'm going to actually move that 3 to 4. One I call the super cheap. Super cheap is China, being at 320, 330 per metric ton. Then what I would call the cheap, which is Pakistan and India, at 370 and 375 or 5%. Very cheap compared to the other origins. Then I would call it the relatively expensive, which is Thai and Viet. You're seeing a massive spread really between Thai and Viet versus India and Pakistan. $30 a ton is a big deal. We have Thai at 402 and Viet at 408, excuse me. And again, this is what you see when you have the Philippines come in. Now, even a step further, I call it the ridiculous and stupid. That would be the U.S. price. And I've said this many times, and I will just reiterate this, and it includes the Iraqi trade. Anybody buying U.S. material at this spread who can use Asian rice is an idiot. I don't want to oversimplify this, but that's the facts. When you have $140 a ton with no premium in quality, when a person is choosing that, they're just doing the same thing they used to do. They're not making the best choice for the trade. That happens in rice. It's very political. There is a lot of politics behind it, even in the Americas regions. But again, if you have the choice and you're buying U.S., it's not a good decision. It's quite foolish. And I stick by that. Asian quality is better than the U.S. The U.S. have allowed chalky hybrid rice to really inundate their market. The quality is not there. Asian rice is consistently is better quality. Outside of that, what else do I have to show? I would just continue to say the supply is very high. I remain negative on the market. There could be short-term spikes on some weather events or stuff like the Philippines buying. You definitely have Indonesia pretty full with the election coming up. Definitely a supply-heavy market. I would also say, as we look in these markets, that you're going to continue to have political issues affect the overall trade, and you have to manage this political stuff along with currency effects on the market and the market prices. Beyond that, I guess I would go through and say we have a key updates this week. We're going to talk about, of course, some of the key conference speeches. There's a very key quarterly update in the fragrant rice market. We have our monthly update of the USDA supply and demand estimates, and key is the U.S. acreage report we're going to go through. And outside of that, we also have a more in-depth report on Vietnam, looking at data. So in summary, this is a brief overview of what we see in the rice trade this week. There's a lot of interesting things happening. I think we are moving back to a more 2000-ish type of market. Be very careful. The stock and hold move that we've seen in seems to be more dangerous today in a down-looking market. And there's definitely players that are having stocks and holding that have potential to get stuck with some of those stocks, and one must watch that in the market. So anyway, this is Jeremy Smith at the Rice Trader, a quick summary of the report. I thank you for your time and look forward to talking to you next week.